Do you know your core values? Your core values are basically what guide your behavior. They guide your decisions, they guide how you act, how you feel, how you move in the world. Once I discovered what my core values were, I was able to understand myself a little better, understand why I had some emotions to certain situations, why certain things bothered me, why I was drawn to other things. So it's really interesting when it comes to just digging a little deeper about yourself and uncovering who you truly are. And as you all know, in this line of work in personal development, we're always asking the questions. We're always wanting to go deeper and see at the core, who are we? And so who we are is governed by the values that we feel are most important to us, that lead all of the things that we're going to do in the world. So if you don't know your core values, I have a free guide for you that will be linked in the show notes that you can quickly click and access, or you can access it on my website. But I think it's so important to just start there. If you've never done self-development or personal development work before, this is a really fun, interesting place to start, because then it gets you even more curious as to the why. Why is this important to me? Why do I feel this way? So that's a nice way to really begin your journey. And if you're well into your journey of self-development and you've still yet to discover your core values, this is definitely for you. It's going to bring so much more to light. It's going to help you just comprehend and start connecting the dots a lot more with a lot of things. So knowing your core values really helps you to understand, why is this important to me? And why do I feel triggered by other things? Core values also keep you aligned with yourself. So moving forward, when you have big decisions to make, your core values are guiding that decision-making process. They're guiding your actions, they're guiding your behaviors, and they're also maybe telling you why things bother you or why you're triggered by certain things. So for example, one of my core values is integrity. And let me just break down what that means to me. Integrity for me means following through with what you said you would do. You're basically committed to your word. And along with that, you take responsibility and accountability for your actions, whether they be good or bad. You respect yourself and others around you, no matter where you are. You help those in need without sacrificing your own health, and you value honesty and openness. In a nutshell, for me, integrity is your actions match your words. You walk the talk. You're committed to what you said you were going to do. You're accountable. You follow through with your decision, even if no one's around to see it. I think that's the most important aspect of being in integrity, is that when people are watching, sure, we do the right thing because we're aware that we have eyes on us, that they're judging us, that they're critiquing our behavior, if we will. But when you're truly in integrity, you don't need those eyes around you to do the right thing. So when no one is looking, are you still going to do what's right? Are you still going to follow through on what you said you would do? How many times have we said, oh, yes, 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 I'm going to send you this, this, and that. If you're in a work environment, oh, yeah, yeah, I'm going to help you. No problem. I'll be here for you. And then they don't ask, and then you don't follow through. And then you're like, okay, well, no one's watching now, so I'm just going to fade into the background. No, no. In integrity, you follow through. You ask the person, you still need my help? Here's what I could do for you. You send them that email, right? So following through on what you said you were going to do. And for me, that's super important because you're accepting responsibility for your decisions and you face the consequences of your actions, should there be any. You don't make excuses, you don't run away, you don't blame others, right? Also, when you stand in integrity, you stand up for your ideas and your opinions. You know that what you say matters and what you think and feel matters, and you stand up for yourself. So you're acting in integrity. For me, I noticed this was one of my values because I paid attention to times when I would get triggered by people not following through on what they said they would do, being unreliable, not taking accountability for their actions or their non-actions in most cases. So for example, if somebody made plans with me and then they would stand me up or they would reschedule, and now like we're human, things come up, but if it happens repeatedly, and there's a reason why we are setting this meeting, I need to talk to you about something, and you keep putting me off, or you keep rescheduling me and never follow through, or you say you're going to do something. Oh, I'm going to send you that thing that you want. And then you never do, but you know it's important to me. And I know it's important to me. why does that bother me so much? Like it would come and get me deep in my core, and I would feel the ickiness, and I would feel angry, and I would feel frustrated, and I would feel disappointed. And I'm like, oh my God, why am I having such a strong physical reaction to someone not following through? Is it because they're unreliable? And why does that bother me so much? So for you too, if you're starting to notice these things, or you're getting triggered, or you're reacting in a certain way, let's get curious. Let's keep asking why. So, why does that bother me so much? Well, it bothers me because I was really counting on that person. Okay, so why does that disappointment affect you so much? Well, because I wouldn't do that to that person. Aha, we're going deeper now, uncovering the layers. So, for me, it's important that actions are reciprocated. Okay, is that consideration? Meaning, like, is that one of my values? Being considerate, because that's looking out for how someone else feels. Yeah, but I feel like it could go deeper than that, because yes, I value consideration. I just think we should all be considerate of each other, but I also understand when things come up. So, what is it? Because if the person would tell me, oh, I really can't meet you today because something came up and I really have to tend to it, no problem. I'm not going to be angry that you canceled on me because you have other things to do that are important to you. Like, that's okay with me. But it's more the unreliable. So let's go back to being unreliable. And then it's in the uncovering of asking those why questions. And again, this is something you could do on your own. Go deeper. Ask yourself, why does it make you feel that way? Why is that important to you? Getting to the root cause, for me, it was not following through on your actions. That upsets me. Why? Because that's important to me, and that's something that I live by. And that's when I realized that one of my core values is integrity. Integrity meaning I always, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But if something comes up, I'm still going to speak and let you know that something came up. I can't do it for tomorrow, but I'll do it for the end of the week. Or something came up, could we reschedule? That's where the consideration comes in, that something will be said if I can't follow through, but I will eventually follow through. And for me, it's so important you commit to something, you get it done. And that's why in business, it's so important to lead with integrity. So, all my entrepreneurs out here, people who work with teams, with colleagues, I think it's important to talk about how we could lead with integrity and why it's so important. So, let's talk about first the why. Why is it so important to have integrity in a place of leadership? Well, leaders who demonstrate integrity, you earn trust amongst your colleagues, amongst your team. And with that, you create a positive work environment and everyone feels valued. People who lead with integrity, they're not afraid of the truth and they stand up for what they believe in. So it's someone you look up to and you're like, all right, they got my back. They got their back and they also got my back. So it's like, I respect this person. I trust this person. They also act in accordance to their words. So they practice what they preach. And that's what I said at the very beginning. You walk the talk. Basically, you commit and you follow through with what you say you're going to do. So you lead by example as well. And if ever you make mistakes, because we're all human, will you own up to it as opposed to making excuses or blaming other people? So in a leadership role in business, you can see how important these qualities are. And leading with integrity, and I mean, I'm going to just bring it back to the basic, have your actions match your words. Have your actions match your words. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're not going to do something, well, then that's fine. Don't do it. But make sure whatever you speak, you follow through and you do. So the people who talk a good talk and who are there just to run their mouths and say what everybody wants to hear, and everybody leaves the meeting feeling happy, but then doesn't follow through on anything, how does that make the team feel? That they're less important, that their time is not worth as much as that person, that the person's not trustworthy and not reliable. So if that's the leader, what do you think you're going to do as a team member? Right? So if you have a team, if you are in a position where you are influencing people by your actions, please understand that your actions are so, so important. Everyone's watching. in the best way possible, right? So, how can you start to lead with integrity? Maybe you've begun the process, or maybe you do it automatically, and that's amazing. But maybe you need a little help just to outline, okay, what are the things I can do to really make sure that I lead with integrity? And I want to share with you 5 ways right now that you could start implementing. Ideally, you do all 5, but let's start with one at a time. So, the first one is to, and I said it before, walk the talk. Show your team what it means to be a good leader. Model the behavior you expect from your team. You want people to be punctual, show up on time. You want to open communication and have honest conversation, you start the conversation and be vulnerable, right? So you model the behavior that you want others to have on your team around you. So you're really embodying that leader that you want everybody else to take notice and learn from. So you walk the talk. Number 2, do the right thing. Keep your moral standards high. Don't cut corners. Even if no one is looking, make sure you always do the right thing. Tell the truth, be honest, encourage honest and open communication in the team. If you're a leader who tries to cut corners all the time, tries to find a way out, is dishonest in any way, that is not leading with integrity, because that's what you're going to teach your colleagues and your team members to do. And then company culture is out the window. So do the right thing, even if no one is looking. Number 3, take responsibility for your actions. When you make a mistake, and you will, because we're all human, own up to it. Don't hide your mistake. Don't blame poor guy next to you or brush it off under the rug or make excuses, right? Set an example for your team on taking responsibility for your actions, and even more, learn through the process of failure. So if you make a mistake, look at it as a learning opportunity. Because if you do that for yourself, when your team members make mistakes, they're not going to be petrified to bring it to your attention, or they're not going to try to make excuses or blame the other person. And then by the time it gets to you, you can't fix it, right? If you have, again, the open, honest communication, the model behavior that we just spoke about before, do the right thing, right? If you take responsibility for your actions and show them that mistakes will happen and it's okay to be vulnerable, just look for solutions and look for a learning opportunity, then it gives them a little more reassurance that, hey, if it so happens that I make a mistake, because again, we're human and it will, at least they won't be afraid to bring it to your attention or to come to you for help on how to fix it. So that's an important one too. Number 4, finish what you started. Please finish what you started. As a leader, finish what you started. The best way to earn trust and respect from your people is by being reliable, right? So finishing what you started, showing up when you say you will, that's all indications that you're a reliable person. So you want to stay true to your promises, meeting deadlines, fulfilling commitments, all of that comes with the general idea of follow through. And any commitment that you make will directly influence your integrity, and people are watching, meaning your colleagues, your teammates, people are looking to you. And again, that model behavior comes in. So with this, I also want to mention that it's important to set boundaries, because contrary to saying yes to everything and then not being able to follow through and then disappointing people, you need to learn what is realistic within my workload. And this is something I had to learn the hard way. So for my people pleasers out there, recovering people pleaser over here, I was so afraid of saying no. So I said yes to everything, and I put way too much on my plate, and then I couldn't get everything done. So I end up disappointing people for fear of saying no and disappointing them in the first place. So this cycle of, I don't want to say no because I don't want to disappoint you. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to take everything on. Then I'm not going to be able to finish everything because there's too much on my plate. So I'm going to drop things, or things are going to slip through the cracks, and then I end up disappointing you anyway. So this cycle can be broken. This pattern can be broken by you setting boundaries. Say yes when it's actually possible. Say no when you can't. But no could be a firm no. Either it's out of your scope or out of your responsibilities or even expertise. It can also be, I can't do it this week, but I could do it next week. It could also be, I can take that project, but something else has to go that's currently on my plate. So you kind of leave it up to the higher person in charge to let you know what the priorities are. But I think the realization that In order to be able to finish what you start, you need to take on enough that you can have the time and the energy and the patience, let's be honest, to do it. But in order to finish what you start, you need to be aware of how much you take on so that you don't take on too much. So it's better to say no to something than to say yes and then not deliver. That plays into the whole reliability. And number 5, be consistent. So once you've matched your actions to your words, you've done the right thing, you keep open and honest communication, you lead by example, you take responsibility for your actions, you finish what you started, and you're a reliable person, you need to do this consistently. When you do it once, not enough to show up as a leader with integrity. So you need to make sure that you practice this on a consistent basis. So overall, you embody that leader who is showing that integrity, who is operating from a place of integrity. And being in that place of power where you have influence over other people, people will look up to you. People will want to be like you. And so why not want to model a behavior that is inspiring, that is going to teach a younger generation or people around you how to do business or how to do something with integrity? Hopefully, this is something that you can even bring to your day-to-day life when it comes to relationships, friendships. If it's something that's important to you, like it is to me, it's definitely something worth exploring a little further. And when it comes to your core values, something that I also want to mention that's very important that I had to learn is just because it's extremely important to you doesn't mean that it's important to somebody else. So with my example of integrity, just because I operate from a place of integrity and I want to make sure that I show up as the reliable friend, the person you can count on to follow through with their actions, it doesn't mean that the other person who I'm in a connection with will have that same core value and will operate from the same way. Maybe for them, their core value is freedom. But all this to say, when you are in a situation where maybe your core values don't align with the person that you're dealing with, open and honest communication is always the answer. Have a conversation about it. Talk about it. Say, this is important for me, and they can understand why you reacted a certain way. So if that person who I deem unreliable cancels on me again, and then I'm very short with that person, or I'm very cold with that person in the next communication, they're probably not even realizing that what they did upset me. For them, it's probably like, oh, it's okay, we're going to reconnect next time. But if I'm reacting in a way that is not coherent with what they're expecting, we have to have a conversation, because we have to make sure that, number one, I communicate how I feel. They don't have to agree, but just to make sure that we kind of squash any animosity that may arise, because this kind of situation can escalate into something that is way too blown out of proportion. So just make sure, it's like with love languages, right? So if you're in a relationship, love languages were developed and designed so that you can start communicating how you share and receive love, because we've realized that there are different ways to share and receive love. And in a couple, you may be upset, like, oh, the person never does anything for me. They don't love me, but they tell you all the time that they love you, or they're very physical with you, and that's how they show love. So for you, you need love in a different way, but for them, they're showing you love in their way. So in your eyes, you're like, yeah, but they don't love me. But for them, they're showing you in their own way, but it's not the same way that you need. So that's where, at the end of the day, communication is key. Communication will resolve everything. We need to make sure we just have an open conversation. We say all that we need to say. We see eye to eye, and then we can take a decision from there. So, in the spirit of integrity, I will show up next week with a brand new episode for you with a guest. I can't wait for you to meet her. And then I'll be back the following week with a solo episode. And I'm thinking I'm going to be diving a little further into the core values and sharing my core values with you and how you can, again, discover yours. So don't forget to get that free guide in the show notes and on my website. And as always, I thank you for being here, and I will see you next week.